Got it. Okay, let's begin the meeting. This is the Lehigh County Authority Board of Directors meeting of April 22nd, 2024. Meeting is being recorded. Members of the board are present via phone, Zoom, or the office here. We got a roll call of the board of directors for tomorrow.
Okay, roll call, Brian Noble,
Here.
Amir Famili,
Here.
Ted Lyons,
Here.
Jeff Morgan,
Here.
Norma Cusick,
Here.
Kevin Baker, Linda Rosenfeld, Sean Ziller.
Here.
Mark Gramus. We have 6 board members present, so we do have a quorum.
Okay, we begin the meeting then. First of all, we'll start off with a review of the agenda and any need for executive sessions.
There are no changes to the agenda today. We did update the packet with the financial report. It went out on Tuesday instead of Monday with the rest of the packet. So that was updated on our website as well. And we are requesting an executive session following the close of this meeting to discuss a personnel matter.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions? All right. Moving on then to approval of the minutes from the March 25th, 2024 Board of Directors meeting.
So I have one comment on the minutes. The very bottom of page 2, second last line. Sure, Mr. Gross is a very nice guy, but I think we want to say Ms. Gross.
Thank you for that. Mr. Gross is a very.
Good job. Good catch.
Since we're recording.
Okay, with that change.
That's it. I would recommend that we approve the minutes.
Motion made by Jeff and seconded by Amir to approve the minutes with that one correction made. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. I see Mark has joined us. Hi, Mark. Anybody else? Okay, we now have 7 board members present. And a hunting horn. Well, my pocket. No.
The people that just came in to drop their ballot, I think,
Okay.
pay a bill.
All right, at this point in time, we open up the floor to any public comments on items that are not on the agenda.
No, thanks, Brian.
No, thanks, Brian.
Okay, see you, Jenny and Brian. All right, no other comments from the public? We move on then to action to discussion items. The first one being under finance administration. It's resolution number 4, 2024-1, authorizing the authority's application for PennVest funding, seeking approval. It is the blue documents within the board package, by the way, which we did receive in advance. And it's also digital board package pages 7 through 8.
Great, thank you. This one, I think the board should be fairly familiar with these. We've been doing a few of these recently. This is a resolution that's required by the PennVest program as part of our application process for grant or loan funding. In particular, this application is on target to be submitted in May for the next round of lead service line replacements, which we spoke about at the last meeting when we looked at documents related to that program. So essentially, we're asking the board to approve the application or the submission of an application to PennVest for funding for that project. There is grant funding available for lead service line replacements. We do not expect 100% grant funding, but we do expect some mix of the grant and loan, which is important for this project because of the size and ongoing nature of the lead service line replacement program. I don't have any specific presentation planned other than that. It's a pretty straightforward resolution. Is there any questions?
Okay, we can have the reading of the resolution. Kevin?
Certainly. Certainly.
It's a resolution of the Lehigh County Authority approving the submission of a financial assistance application to Penvest for funding for the replacement of public and private lead service lines for the authority's Allentown Division water system in order to meet future requirements of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's lead and copper rule revisions.
Thank you. The motion and second. We got Amir on the motion and second by Ted. All right. Do need a vote on this, so if you can do a roll call on votes.
Okay, roll call vote on section 4-2024-1, Brian Noggle,
Yes.
Amir Famili,
Yes.
Ted Lyons.
Yes.
Jeff Morgan,
Yes.
Norma Cusick,
yes,
John Ziller,
Yes.
Ramus.
Yes.
Thank you, it's unanimous, 7-3.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion passed. Next item on the agenda is under water, the water main replacement program, cycles 7 and 8. Seeking approval is the yellow documents within the board package, digital board packet, pages 9 to 27.
All right, Chuck, would you want to
Yes.
introduce this one?
Yep, thank you, Lisa. Jason Peters is going to present this project. This is combining two main replacement projects into one to take advantage of economy of scale. It satisfies the lease requirements through the end of this year for main replacements. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Brian, and the rest of the board. As Chuck had mentioned, we're combining 2 years, 2 cycles or 2 consecutive construction years for this year's project. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So what we're seeking a motion and approvals for is the capital project authorization for construction phase Allentown Division Cycle 7 and 8 in the total amount of $5,053,203. In which professional service authorizations for Gannon Fleming in the amount of $89,280 and a construction inspection services authorization to Keystone Consulting Engineers for $89,300, a general construction contract to N. Abinizio Contractors in the amount of $3,912,403, and a final paving restoration contract cost sharing agreement with the city of Allentown to pave the city streets, which we impact for $737,220. To give you a little bit of project overview and background, and I'll step it back for a little bit for the people, some of the board members that have, are a little bit new to this process in which we've done since we took over the lease over 10 years ago now. We've completed just shy of 11 miles of main replacements in the city of Allentown, and over 1,000 services now we've conducted and renewed in the city, which is a pretty cool milestone to be met. With this year's project, we'll complete another 2 miles of water main replacements within the city. With this, as Chuck alluded, the 2 miles that we are conducting this year will satisfy the amended agreement that we went into with the city of Allentown in 2020, completing 4 miles of main replacements by the end of year 2024. The funding for this project will be funded by the LCA Allentown Division and city grant funds from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Annual water main replacements are identified as a required work in the agreement and is classified as major capital improvements. Project status today for this project is for the construction phase, as I indicated before, for cycle 7 and 8. We've obtained all our necessary permits that are required for the construction itself. The bidding summary for this construction contract, we received actually 7 bids for this construction phase, which was pretty incredible. And one of the good things about when we timed this bid to go out, and we saw some really competitive pricing. Background checks on Ab initio, our design engineer, identified them as an acceptable contractor with some prior previous construction work that they've done for Gannett Fleming and other local authorities here in the area. So LCA recommends to go ahead with the general construction contract for N Ab initio Contractors, Inc. Again, as I mentioned earlier, also entering into a cost sharing paving agreement with the city of Allentown. This will be the third time we've entered into a cost sharing agreement, which is wonderful because we get to see some better pricing. The city of Allentown paves the projects at the end of our work out on the streets. So it's a win-win for both the city and LCA. So again, the motion for the board to authorize is a capital project authorization for $5,053,203, which includes professional services to Gannett Fleming and also Keystone Consulting Engineers and a cost sharing agreement to the city of Allentown. Does anybody have any questions? Comments?
Who was the contractor for other cycles?
Previous contractors we've had, in the Allentown division would be JOAO and Bradley. We've also seen Anrich. We've also seen Dolly Construction Corp. And on another large scale main replacement project, we've seen Michaels Corporation.
Have you seen a difference in the quality of the work on all the cycles till now that we have pharma to those companies?
When you say quality, what do you reference by quality?
Ease of
Anything
work, being
specific?
on time, being on money.
There are differences between every contractor that we've seen out there. Generally, the contractors seem to be do a very adequate job when out there conducting business for LCA on behalf of LCA. Pretty good rapport with the community. But as far as completeness goes, I think they're pretty much all equal for the ones that we see here bidding on our projects.
How much cost increase have you seen on bidding from the cycle 5 and 6 versus 7 and 8?
7 and 8. Good question, Amir. I think the economies as of the last several years since COVID, we've definitely seen an uptick in pricing. As seems like the market for materials have kind of leveled out. I'm still seeing a little bit increase in what seems to be more of a labor cost factor into there. Obviously, we don't see that in the pricing as far as breakdown. We see it as a bid, which includes their labor, but we still see a little bit of an uptick into the pricing.
You recall what was the bid for the 5 and 6?
Actually, the last cycle 6, and that was a mile.
Yeah.
I think the contractor's price was around 1.5 million.
That's
If I
correct.
remember correctly. That was Bradley.
Yep.
So you can see it, this is 2 miles. So you can see the cost increase 125.
There's gonna be a big difference in what's underneath the ground.
Well, it depends where in the city it is.
So,
That's correct.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's other factors.
These prices reflect what we know is underground in this section of the lines, correct?
Correct.
So it's kind of hard to compare unless you know what's underneath the both sections. Never know.
They were very competitive, as you can see. There's only $17,000 difference between the first and second bidders.
To your point, Brian, that there is a couple sections here within this project that are more centralized, a little central Allentown, just slightly to the west. So you have conducive construction constraints that are a little difficult to do the work in those areas. And that gets reflected back into the project.
So I didn't see within the package the actual streets that were gonna be done. Is that something we don't publish, or is that just, or is it, there's something I missed?
No, typically we don't have that published within the board memo documents. That's correct.
We can put that in from now on. I mean,
That's correct.
it's not proprietary information or anything. We just haven't been including it. We can certainly do that.
It just was more of a curiosity thing. What
Yeah.
area of the city was gonna be disrupted by the work for the next several months?
It's, near east of downtown, like, or generally speaking.
So one thing that was really nice, this construction work, we worked with the city of Allentown and the compliance department. We started pooling areas together, so we're not so spread out across the city as we've conducted in prior years, which will help also ascertain some better pricing because of mobilization and demobilization costs. So one section of the town we'll be working in is the Alton Park area, if you're familiar with that area. And then again, more centrally located within the prime part of the city, just to the west, just a little bit.
Sean Zeller has a question. Yes.
Sean, you have a question?
Yeah, just this is because I don't necessarily recall if we've discussed this previously, but beyond this, what's come in front of us today, is there any additional ARPA funding from the city that we're not yet under agreement for that we anticipate kind of coming in the future?
I can respond to that. And actually, we have folks from the city of Allentown who are on the call that could respond as well. Essentially, the projects that the city has designated for use of city ARPA fund allocation has been primarily the water main replacement projects, as well as the water filter plant project, which was approved 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Recently. Several months ago, right? So that those two projects, and we've been working closely with Jennifer McKenna, Brian Chamberlain from the city compliance office about how the funds that they've approved through city ordinance would be sort of allocated to those sets of projects. And invite Jennifer McKenna to offer any additional information if I missed anything.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Liesl. You said everything just well. The city council was very pleased that this is one of the qualifying projects, and they did allocate money. We also, you said the filter project and some of the sewer line replacement. City council allocated 15 million of their ARPA awards to these water infrastructure projects. And we're still some leftover. I've been working with Ed Klein. There's still some money left over that we're going to make sure gets allocated, the remainder to cycle 7 and 8. I also want to say, as if I may, why Jason was talking, is I think the board would be very pleased to know that the city and LCA got together and kind of reviewed the projects last year to determine what was working and maybe what we could tweak. And that's one of the items that we came up with to tweak was to make sure we were mobilizing and look at those mobilization costs instead of hitting every sector of the city every year to make sure there was fairness there. We changed the fairness to be every year we're going to be in a different sector. So the mobilization costs could be achieved, reduced costs there. And we looked at some other methods to see how we could streamline this project. I think that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, Sean?
Yep. The only reason I asked was because I know with my work that I've done here with the ARPA funding in Easton, there's a 2024, end of 2024 kind of use it or lose it deadline. So obligation deadline to get these sorts of things under contract and under agreement. So just a general question, 30,000-foot view question that came to mind. So thank you.
Other board questions, comments? I have a question, Jason. When we normally do our projects, these main replacements, do we do the ADA required curb installations as well? Is that part of the contracts? Is that part of our requirements?
So that was part of where the workings with the city of Allentown assisted greatly. The city ordinance for paving restorations is pretty extensive. And the type of work that we're doing out there as far as main replacements go, provoke the part of the ordinance where we will have to pave and resurface their roads from curb to curb with new asphalt. And when doing so, you go around the radius, and the ADA ramps are part of that in their ordinance as well. So for this particular year in the cost sharing agreement, We're in agreement in regards to all the roads that will be touching the 2 miles. And also impacted is 105 ADA ramps in that agreement itself.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Brad.
All right, any other board comments, questions? Okay, I have before us a proposal for a capital project authorization, the construction phase, Allentown Division Cycle 7 and 8 water main replacements. For a total amount of $5,053,203. That includes professional service authorization to Gannett Fleming for $89,280 and Keystone Consulting Engineers for construction inspection services for $89,300. And includes a general construction contract with Nizio Contractors for $3,912,403. And also includes a cost sharing agreement with the city of Allentown that was also included within our document for a total of $737,220.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion by Sean and seconded by Mark, and a raised hand by Lisa.
I just want to be clear for the record that the authorization includes authorization for staff or the CEO to execute the actual agreement.
So noted and included.
Thank you.
Correct, Sean?
Correct. You got it right.
All right, motion made and seconded. Are there any questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda is under wastewater, Clients Island Wastewater Treatment Plant. Final settling plant tanks 1 to 4 upgrades. Seeking approval, green documents in our board package, digital board packet pages 28 to 37.
All right, thanks, Liesl. Amy Rohrbach is going to present this project. I'll just introduce the project. This project was in the 2019 Kleins Island Wastewater Treatment Plant Master Plan. It was project number 14 under the near-term projects. And these are the first clarifiers to be built at Kleins Island. They're over 90 years old. And this is a structural, mechanical, and electrical upgrade project. So Amy's going to get into the details for you.
As Chuck mentioned, these are the smallest tanks at the plant, and they were part of the original plant from 1931. They were upgraded in the 60s with new mechanisms, new brake arms, new electrical, but that has since met its useful life. So we are looking to upgrade the mechanisms in the tanks, to do some structural repairs to the tanks, some crack repairs and coatings, as well as new MCCs, new electrical conduit. The electrical that's there now is direct bury, and if you're familiar with direct bury, it comes with problems. So we will be installing new conduit and wiring for the mechanisms. Currently the 4 tanks, the tank 3, I always get the numbers confused. Tank 3 is currently being used as a leachate receiving tank. It will remain a leachate receiving tank, but the existing mechanism will be removed. The bridge and center column will remain so that we can mount a davit crane to be able to lower the pump that we use to pump the leachate. The tank will be able to be retrofitted and put back in service as a clarifier if the capacity is needed down the road. But as of now, that capacity is not needed, and it is projected not to be needed for quite some time now. So we're going to pretty much gut it with the capability of putting it back online with the equipment if needed. The drive units on the tanks are currently, one of them on tank 1 was replaced recently, and tanks 2 and 4 tank 2, we received a new drive unit, but didn't install it because we're going to have the contractor install it when they put the new mechanism in. And tanks 3 and 4, we ordered, but it's on order, 2 more drive units. One will go in tank 4 and the other will remain a spare. Also as part of the project, there's gonna be a fiber link. We're in the process of working on extending the fiber line to some other portions of the plant. So this will link it back to where we're kind of ending that other work to continue that link for SCADA reasons. The improvements will also include, as we said, the tanks were originally from the 30s and they had outboard launers, so there were these brick openings. There were openings that were bricked over in the 60s. That brick needs some repair, grout repair, some coatings to prevent leaking out through the brick. So that's going to be part of this project as well. As well as on the launders, there's algae covers that we have put on, I think it's 6 and 7 or 5 and 6, 5 and 6. And those have plant maintenance staff have really found them useful because it cuts down on the maintenance with the algae growth. So that is also planned to be installed on the 3 tanks that are being retrofitted, which will, help with maintenance down the road. Let me see if I missed anything as far as what we're putting in. And this did get approval from the city of Allentown, conceptual design approval for capital cost recovery. So before you is the final design and bidding phase services. GHD prepared the preliminary engineering, so we are recommending we continue with GHD at their proposal for $146,400 with a total capital project authorization of $166,400. And the anticipated future construction and soft costs, it totals about $5.5 million on this project. There is some permitting involved, so the schedule is, gets pushed out a little bit longer with the permitting. So we're looking to advertise this project for construction in late in the year with award and notice to proceed early in January. Any questions?
Where's the leachate come from?
The leachate comes from the landfill.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's a waste management out in Penn Argyle.
Okay, so they truck it in.
Yes, correct. They truck it in.
It's an income.
I'm trying to figure out where the leachate came from in our plant. Okay. Any questions of the board? All right. We have before us a request for capital project authorization for the design and bidding phase. Pines Island wastewater treatment plant, final settling tanks, 1 to 4 upgrades. For a total cost of $166,400, that includes a professional services authorization to GHD for $146,400. And the estimated total project cost later on at $5.5 million. Motion and second.
So moved.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
seconded by Ted. All right, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
All right, on our agenda, we do not cover number 6, monthly project updates at this time. We do move into the monthly financial review. It's the second board meeting of the month, digital board package pages. Let's see, 38 to 50. March 2024 report was sent to us in advance of this meeting.
I'll get that up and running. And do you have anything you want to say before I put this on the screen?
No, it's been a while. I mean, actually, March was not bad. January and February, we were coming into the month with favorable variances year to date with respect to forecast. And on the forecast in general, we kind of held to around budget. So we're going to take another shot at it as we get into the second quarter. But so as you see on March, Okay. I will continue. So on the income side, we finished the month almost $1.5 million of positive income across all three funds. So that was good. Forecast variances. Well, we were favorable in suburban water, favorable on the city side, and a little bit unfavorable in suburban wastewater. In terms of cash flows, well, we were negative in water, negative in wastewater, and hit $2.7 million of positive cash flow in the city. You can see that on the forecast side, we're off a little bit on water and cash flows and also off on wastewater a bit, but the city ended up being favorable. So altogether, I mean, LCA with the pluses and minuses, had positive net income, positive variance, and LCA and cash flow is up positive and also up by $1.1 million in cash flow compared to forecast. So year to date, like I said, we came into March favorable. We are leaving March favorable. So even with some of the negative variances that we reported in March, we're still holding our own with respect to the forecast for the entire quarter. Water was had a positive net income. Wastewater is slightly negative, almost $4 million in net income on the city side. So LCA is up by 4.3, has an income of 4.3. Forecast variances are favorable across the board to generate $2.6 million of favorable variance on the net income side for the quarter. Cash flow, kind of similar, the net income. The suburban water was positive and has positive forecast variance. Wastewater was negative, but not as negative as we thought it was going to be. So that was favorable as well. And almost $7 million worth of cash flow against the forecast of 3.9. So we're up $2.8 million in cash flow. And altogether, about $3.6 million favorable variance for the quarter against what we forecasted. As I mentioned, coming in, we kind of held to the budget for the forecast. So there isn't really a lot to talk about in terms of how the forecast compares to budget. It's pretty much right in line. We will take a look at the next quarter and start fleshing out what we think is timing differences versus permanent differences. So when we talk again in May, we'll have a different forecast. And I guess the good news is, since we're better than forecast now, I think the likelihood is the forecast will start to look a little bit better than budget. Just taking a look at where we are year to date on the income. You can see it on suburban water. We're favorable on net income by $328,000. So we got good news on operating revenues being up. Operating expenses were down, so that generated a favorable variance. Non-operating, which would be mostly interest income, was up. And interest expense was down a little bit, but altogether you get a favorable variance of $328,000. On the operating revenue side, it's pretty much industrial, residential, commercial segments were up across the board. We also saw a positive swing in developer reimbursement on the operating expense side. What I'm seeing is right now a little bit lower G&A and a little bit lower discretionary spending in materials and supplies right now. Cash flows, well, your income was good, so your cash flows from operations should be good, and that's what it's showing there. Debt service was kind of right in line with forecast. The CAPEX was higher this time. So Q1 CAPEX in suburban water was a little bit higher than what we said we were going to spend for the quarter. And again, we're generating $65,000 of favorable variance and interest from interest income. So the total variance is a positive $135,000 to forecast. In terms of the metrics, debt service looks good, better than the budget target, better than we think the year will be 1.96, so not far off from where we think we're going to finish the year. Operating ratio, 1.20 pretty much across the board against an internal of 1. And days cash on hand, all good, 284 days versus our target of 180. And actually, we think by the end of the year, that cash will be 308 days cash on hand. Looking at suburban wastewater, on the income side, $410,000 worth of favorable variance. Where you can see it's a couple pluses and minuses there. You got operating revenues up by 529. Operating expenses were unfavorable, most of that being unfavorable or higher treatment and transportation volumes on the wastewater side. We generated an additional interest income of $62,000, and interest expense was also down a little bit better by $7,000. So that gets you to your $410,000 variance. Year-to-date cash flows, positive side against forecasts of 637. We talked about income, so being higher, so you're getting a lot from cash from operations. Debt service was favorable. Again, second fund where CapEx was a little bit higher than what we forecast. And then the investing side is on the wastewater. We had I'll call this a timing difference. We had some investments mature that I just didn't get to reinvest again. So we'll hit that in April. Metrics, again, look good. You're at 5. Higher than 5 for debt service coverage ratio. You can see where that's against budget, of 4.7. Operating ratio, a little bit less than 1. So this is the one fund where, quite frankly, we budgeted to be a little bit less than 1 in total. That's with depreciation. But we'll see where the forecast takes us when we look at this. Days cash on hand, good, 224 versus 180, and we think we'll be at 271 by the end of the year. City division, $1.9 million favorable net income variance, and the step ladder is all blue, so it's all good going from operating revenue to operating expenses, and non-operating items were favorable. Interest expense was favorable. Some of that is what I'll play out of the refinancing that we did, creating some favorable variances during the month. Operating revenues, again, higher residential, industrial, commercial volumes across all 3 segments. Operating expenses got lower G&A. And again, discretionary spending on materials was down so far. I suspect that's somewhat of a timing difference too. But variances are all step upward, so you get to $1.9 million favorable income variance. On the cash flow side, 2.8. We talked about the income, so that helped generate $1.1 million of favorable variance. Again, we prepaid some debt service when we did the refinancing, so that's pretty much what that $696,000 unfavorable variances. However, this fund got helped by like $2 million of favorable CAPEX variance, so obviously the timing's off a bit on that. And then still getting pretty good interest income on the invested balances that we had. Ratios. The service coverage ratio up to target, better than internal target. We think we'll settle down to about 2.13, which would be around budget. Operating ratio 2.15. So that's good with respect to targets. And then days cash on hand, almost 400 compared to the 180. And I think by the end of the year, we'll be at 400 plus. I know y'all like the scorecard, so actually pretty good on the suburban water side. I mean, we have 14 green blocks. So all the metrics all the questions were answered on that. Suburban wastewater, well, net income was down on the negative side, and cash flow was on the negative side as well. And right now, the operating ratio is a little bit lower, and expenses are kind of real close to budget, but a little bit higher, and that's because of the treatment and transportation. City side, you got all 14 boxes checked, so really nothing bad there. So just summarizing things, as I mentioned, we were holding to budget. We'll take a look at that. Year-to-date performance in both net income and cash flows is better than forecast for all funds. That's good. I looked at operating revenues, again, on all three funds, operating revenues were favorable to forecast. We did get some help on invested balances coming in higher on interest income than we thought, and we'll see where the next forecast group takes us. But like I said, coming in, we're on the positive side, so I don't know that I would say anything indicates a budget problem right now.
Thank you, Ed. Board comments?
Question, so what do you do with your cash these days, Ed?
We're saving it for the PTP.
What kind of interest rates you get?
What?
What kind of interest rates?
Interest rates are, I did notice a little bit of downswing. They went from, we were getting some balances in at like 5.45%. I've noticed the last bunch, 4.45. So, I mean, the bond market's shifting. I mean, Kevin and I were talking, had we did the refinancing on the city a week later, we would not have done as well. And the trend has been negative. So essentially, thank God we did it when we did. But that's the rates that I'm seeing now. I'm thinking they're probably going to drop a little bit more again.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, thanks, Ed.
Sure.
Staff comments?
Should we do the operating report?
Yes, let's do the operating. Thank you. Sorry to pass you by there.
That's all right. So in front of you, you do have the March 2024 operations report. First page, safety incidents. Happy to report there's no injuries and no vehicle incidents, so a very good change of pace there. We did have another wet month though, so we had about 5.14 inches of rain. Looking at the water production, you'll notice a little bit more coming out of the Lehigh River. The main driver behind that was basically turbidity events within the Lehigh Creek, Little Lehigh Creek. So we did run the Lehigh River a little bit more. And when you go down to wastewater, you'll really see the effects. At Klein's Island, we treated over 39 million gallons per day. Same with the pretreatment plant, it's a little bit higher than normal, and then same with the combination of the smaller wastewater facilities. Going down to the next row, there's no NOVs. We did have one SSO, which was on Green Street and Meadow in Allentown. That was not wet weather related, but it was a blockage that caused a sanitary sewer overflow. And then we also did have a short bypass at Klein's Island on March 23rd. That was during a wet weather event, but we did not hit peak capacity. One of our main sewage pumps was out of service. The motor was being repaired. And when the last pump went to be called to go online, the gate valve got jammed and got stuck. And we were not able to open it in time. The maintenance staff was in, they worked on it for quite a few hours. They finally got it up. However, there was a short bypass of right around a little over 2,000 gallons that occurred during that event. But once again, we did not hit peak capacity. It was due to a malfunction of the equipment. Heading over to the third page. As I just mentioned, the Allentown bypass. Heidelberg does not have a bypass listed here. It was listed on the February report. So that one did carry into March 12th though. So it was a very long bypass. With that being said, we did have 2 permit exceedances, mainly due to the high flows leaving that facility. Going down to Sand Spring, 3 more permit exceedances. 2 of those were ammonia related. The last one was total nitrogen related. And then down at Wynwood, if you recall back early February, we had some issues with high flows, which really washed out the solids. So we still did have one ammonia exceedance there, but that plant is now back to normal, so we should not be seeing that moving forward. No boil water advisories. That's all I have. I don't have any questions.
Or questions? Okay, thank you, man. Now, that going.
Just have one announcement for those who are interested. Lehigh County Authority provides an update to the County of Lehigh Board of Commissioners every year, and this year they've invited me in April. So I will be attending their meeting of the General Services Committee on Wednesday this week. It is virtual, so if anyone wants to tune in, primary focus of the conversation will be wastewater planning for the region. So hot topic all across Lehigh County. That's all I have.
Those are the comments?
No comment, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Any public comments on any topics whatsoever?
No, thanks, Brian.
No comments, thanks.
Okay, great. Board member comments.
I have a comment, just a minor comment. I was at Grange Park on Sunday for a meeting. I noticed the force main project is underway, so I was just curious when that is expected to be completed.
That should be completed by early fall.
Just for the fourth main though, right?
No,
Yeah,
just
just for the
not the
force-
pump station.
Yeah,
Just
just
the
the
fourth
force main, it should be completed within 6 months, for sure. We have been working with the township on issues with the park, like barricading and backfilling everything and protecting.
Yeah,
Protecting,
it looked good. It looked good.
Yeah,
Minimize-
so we are very sensitive to, we want to get past the park as soon as possible.
Yeah, understood.
I just wanted to also, just to chime in, thanks to Liesl, the team, and Sue notably, for sharing a lot of the media updates recently and sharing it with the board. It's been great to see a lot of the outreach that the authority's doing. So just wanted to add that comment.
Okay. I have a comment. The pretreatment plant has a lot of challenges, and they've decided to establish a stakeholder advisory panel for the pretreatment plant to look at the different options on moving forward with that plant. And I signed Amir and Ted to be representatives on that stakeholder group with Kevin as an alternate. So that should be starting up shortly and last maybe 3 to 6 months, maybe.
3 months approximately. Yeah.
All right, and hopefully get some good answers out of that stakeholder group. Getting everybody involved in the community that might be affected by it or have an impact on the decisions we make is an important process to make sure that everybody goes in with their eyes wide open. So it's looking forward to the results from that study. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I don't see anything else on the agenda, so we're going to adjourn, and within the next, at 1 o'clock, we'll begin an executive session for personnel issues for board members only, and that information was provided in an email that Liesl had sent out to the board members to get on that Zoom call. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Good work.